What's up, everybody? Welcome to another, well, winning Wednesday. We can say that, but it is fourth and go. Philly 4 for 4 plus so much more. I'm repping the skinny Batman, and that's Mark Tomasini. I'm Dave Gleckner. We're about to get into it all tonight. Eagles 11-1, Sixers 12-12. We'll talk about that. Philly's killing the hot stove. And Flyers, we'll see if we can get into them a little bit. They actually turn around. Some performance recently winning the game against Colorado. But with that said, welcome to the show. What's up, Mark?
What up? What up? This is Dave Dombrowski right now. This is Dave Dombrowski right here. Trey Turner, you get $300 million. Taiwan Walker, you get $72 million. Matt Strom, you get $15 million.
Yo, I'd love to.
Go ahead.
Listen, let me get your take because we'll get into the Phillies. I know we'll get deeper into them, but real quick. Do you even effing care what money it is?
No, it's not my money. It's not our money. That's what the team decides to do.
That's right. That's right. Do you care that Trey Turner made three? I could care if it's 280, 300, 320. It doesn't matter. We got the guy I needed.
If it wasn't us, it was going to be somebody else. Not worried about it. If it directly affects our pockets, then maybe it's something. But right now, it's not my money.
Dude, I agree 1,000%. These people that worry about, by age 39, he's going to be, you know what? By age 39, if we're still competing, I'm good. I just need a ring. I need one ring. I don't care what we do to get that ring. You can tell me all you want. You know, would you want 2 in 10 years? No doubt about it. Would I? Yeah, for sure. But if I get one, that $300 million, all worth it. And I'll tell you right now, the Harper money has all been worth it so far too, with no rings.
And he's already paid dividends, and he's already now an underpaid player because if you look at the way it goes. Look, you're guaranteeing these people a lot of money over a lot of time, but it's not the highest AAV, essentially. We'll get into all that more, but
no, I love your take. I'm so proud of my team for going out and taking it by the horns. Don't let the bull take you. Take it by the horns. And that's what we'll get into that in a little bit. Talking about taking by the horns, that's what we're going to talk about first, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. I went a little headband tonight. You know why? I'm feeling good. I feel like these Eagles, I was a little worried last week. I think I picked them right on the spread number, like around 5 points. Guess what? They absolutely blew that out the window, beating the Tennessee Titans 35-10, a team that was the number 1 seed in the AFC last year, a team that was 7-4 coming in the game, a team that's well coached, has a very good game plan, and we absolutely demolished them. And it was this is one of those eye-opening games for me. You can turn the page on that Indianapolis game. Got to win that game. Got it, and we did, right? Ugly. Can turn the page on the Arizona game. Got to win that game. Found a way to win it. This is right up there with like Minnesota, probably Dallas, but I know it was Cooper Rush. It's right up there as one of my top 3 wins of the season already.
Absolutely.
Domination. It was against a very good team, and these Eagles are real as it can get.
It was all facets of the ball, all 3 sides. You saw good special teams yesterday on top of Sunday, on top of good offense and good defense. I mean, you saw it makes me even more confident about something that I felt a couple of games into the year. They can win in a multitude of ways, and that becomes clutch when you play different teams. Look, if you're an amazing passing team and that's it, and your run is lackluster and you don't get much from defense and special teams, you know, you're pigeonholed. But this team right now, the Packers were a terrible run defense. So what they do? Ran all over them.
Yep.
A week later, the Titans are one of the worst pass defense teams. What they do? Throw all over them. I mean, they came out hot. They got Devontae involved early. I think with him, he's that type of guy. You got to get him involved early. And it's nothing about himself as who he is. It's just his type of game. I think he needs to get the ball in his hands, start making things happen. I feel like the momentum just rides as the game goes on. So I always like when the first play of the game, like you go to him. I really think that's the route you got to go. Get him involved early. And he was. And it opened things up for AJ. Usually it's the other way around, but there was nothing they could do. It was fantastic.
Fantastic. It's a great word. Dan, thanks for checking in. And you're not late to the party. Listen, I know I let you down a little bit late, so we're going to get back to you with the Eagles game, but we were 6-0 on this show. So I know for your pool, if you stay long enough, maybe we'll have some winners to help populate those picks. But if you have a comment on the Tennessee game, got a couple of people also checking in. We'll get your comments in a second. But here's what I want to say. Fantastic's a great word, right? And the Titans knew it was going to be A.J. Brown day. So early on, they kind of tried to find a way to really press up. And then it's Devontae. And Devontae on that first touchdown, you mentioned on the first play of the game, you're right, he's open. On the first touchdown of the game, Hurts underthrew him by about 3 yards, and he still had time to just catch it. He was that open by about 6 yards, and it's just amazing the way this guy runs his routes, the way he's able to be professional and coming to the game, and he's learning on the fly because he's learning from AJ. He's getting better every week. I'm not going to lie to you. This guy's going to be the best receiver on the Eagles in a year. It's just, I'm convinced of it. I'm all AJ. I love AJ, and his physicality is fantastic, but Devontae's about to put up 1,200 yards this year. I mean, it's going to happen. He's putting up a great year already, and he's such a big part of this team, and he goes under the radar. And for them to expose him and use him on the first drive, fantastic. It's a great word, Mark. And I just think it was exciting. What Jalen Hurts go for? Like 270 in the first half, 268 or 286? I always get those.
I know. I'm trying to think. I feel like it was like 286, somewhere around there.
That's where I thought it was. And you're right. 360 on the ground against the Pack, come back with 300 plus in the air against.
What was it? 370, 380 maybe? It was a lot.
It just shows you we can win in any type of environment, any type of ball game. Dan, you're right. Vikings, easy schedule, afford one loss. That is true. Here's where it's got me pretty excited. Our opponent this weekend, which we'll get into in a few minutes, stinks. And it was a game early in this year. We even kind of put this asterisk around it, Mark. We both had it maybe we split with the Giants, maybe we don't. It was but we knew they'd be tougher games. I think we'll get into that in a few minutes. And I know that game's going to be I think this game's going to be a little bit easier than I first thought coming into the year. I know Dallas is going to be tough, but I still think we got Chicago on the horizon, New Orleans. The game against Dallas is the key, and Vikings do have an easy schedule, but I find them losing this week to the Lions, and we'll talk about that a little bit more here as we go. But talking about Tennessee, Mark, another really good point for the Eagles this week was the run defense.
Yep, exactly. 100%. I probably should have even gotten into that first. I mean, here's the thing. We know what the drill is. The Eagles can't stop the run. They got Jordan Davis back, but he really wasn't a factor. But you saw that they knew what their goal was. The goal was to stop Derrick Henry from beating you. If you're going to beat us in the air, that's fine. Go ahead and do it. His longest run of the day was 6 yards for Derrick Henry, who is one of the best backs. Now, he has the past couple of games have not been his best. But even regardless, still, you knew that they were going to run. They tried, and they swallowed him up. There was just nothing. They had, and they did it. They sold out, and it worked.
That's what I was going to ask you. How'd they get it done? From my perspective at the stadium, it was a very good I hate the term gang tackling, but a very good team-oriented defense. But what you see on the TV, how they get this done versus one of the prolific running backs in the league?
I felt like they sold out and they went all in on Derrick Henry. They really did. And you saw that one drive where they came down the field and Trey Lance scored the touchdown. They were able to do things through the air on that drive. When I think if I'm trying to recall, but I think the first drive, the Eagles, they didn't do anything for it on defense. I think it was the second drive, if I'm not mistaken, that Treylon Burks scored the touchdown. I think the game plan was we're going to stop Derrick Henry. So on the first drive, the Eagles stopped them. Second drive, they started passing the ball, and they had that big fourth down conversion, 4th and 5. And that was just kind of a backbreaker type of play where Tannehill rolled out. And really, it was a passing down, but he had all that space because they were actually playing back finally. And then that's when they got the touchdown. They throw the ball over the middle to Treylon Burks. And then once they lost Treylon Burks, that was kind of a shot to them too. It really was. because he was their physical and he's their best receiver. I mean, none of their other guys who have been playing okay for them really stepped up the rest of the way. Robert Woods didn't do anything. That Westbrook kid didn't do anything. But I think we saw it on the screen. They stacked the box. They really did.
Yep.
I really, to me, everything I saw was they sold out on the run. Let Tannehill and his arm beat us.
Yeah, I think Dan's got a good point, and what you just said, stack the box is very key to what they did here, because let's be realistic. Treylon Burks, Robert Woods, Nickel Westbrook, however you say his last name, okay, but you're not very worried. Tight end position, very weak. So you could really risk it all for the biscuit, and that's Derrick Henry. And I do think they stacked the box. That's what we're seeing. Burks, even on that touchdown that you were mentioning, was squeezed in between two safeties. So it was like they had it well defended.
Yeah.
I think did they end up knocking him out for the game?
He was knocked out for the game. It was scary at first because he caught it. And the fact that he was able to hold on was even crazy in itself, because you see him, he's just laying there with the ball. But you could see he was breathing, but he was motionless for a couple seconds there. I really think he got the wind knocked out of him bad.
That's what I thought. Yep. It was in my end.
They were moving his legs and stuff like that. And I think he was actually able to walk off the field. So everything was fine in that point, but he was out of the game after that. And then the Titans offense weren't able to do anything the rest of the way.
And good point. I mean, not only did Sweat jump off sides on that play, we had a lot of, if you want to just go back to the overall game script, the Eagles just were sloppy overall. And I know Sweat was part of that. But if you look at the offensive line, so many false starts, so many unforced errors, if we look in the tennis terms, and that was one of them. Sweat jumping off sides there was a key to extending the Titans' drive. You're probably right. They don't score there. I do think the Titans eventually find a way into the end zone. Yeah, it's hard to hold a team down that long, but you take what you take and you get what you get. And the Eagles, I always think that touchdown might have been good for them. I think at that point, did it get to 14-10? I think it was 14-3 maybe when that one popped. Or was that before the field goal? But
I think it was before the field goal.
Okay, either way. And I mean, imagine if not sloppy, it's 50-7. I mean, I don't think it gets there, but yes, it could have. And that's how big of a beatdown and domination it was.
I do want to interject.
Yeah,
it was sloppy and they definitely had their issues, but I did hear after earlier this week listening on the radio, and this officiating crew is known for all those ticky-tack offensive line type of penalties, so they were hypersensitive to it. They had a couple of miscues. I think it was the same drive where they called the personal foul on not David Long. I forget who it was, but somebody went to go sack Hurts, and he just fell on top of him. It wasn't a pile drive to the ground or anything like that. They called that. Then a couple plays later, Jason Kelce went to go bear hug the guy. Nose tackle. But really he never even connected. The guy kind of fell forward and his hands went over. So what I think what the refs saw and what they thought, one, it was a makeup call. Two, that he pushed him down to the ground. But that wasn't the case. The Titans player fell on their own. So I think the ref was part sloppy. The Eagles were part sloppy as well. I'm not totally absolving them. Obviously, they had their own issues, but those refs were looking for. They're known for those, line of scrimmage type of penalties. They call those a lot.
Yeah, but it was. I mean, that was as much as I've seen in an NFL game.
Oh no, but that's the thing, though. You think about it. For the most part, they haven't been that guilty of that for most of the season. They've gone. I know. They've gone a lot of the season without being so horrendous. So I think it was part that. I still think they probably had 6-7 of them that were at least earned or, was on them. It doesn't look good when they do the Philly Christmas special, on TV all morning. They did. Aaron Andrews went and talked to the offensive line. So it was one of those things where, the optics don't look great on it, but obviously they came through.
They'll still sell their music. They're going to be all right. But I hear you. Yeah, and just as an overall perspective of this game, and we've talked about it at a pretty good pace here, it's just that with those penalties, with those miscues, you went 35-10. It tells you one big thing here. 35-10 against the 7-14, by the way. These Eagles are good. They're really, really, really good. And we got to be in the moment right now. And the moment is, everybody's looking at Dallas scoring 40 points a game for the past 5 games. Everybody was juiced up and juiced, from a Roy perspective on the San Francisco 49ers. Now they lose Jimmy G. Don't make that excuse. Don't bite the excuses. This team right now is undervalued in the national media, and it's good for us.
Yes.
It's good for us. Beat these squads down, do our thing, be hated. No one likes us. We don't care, and it's okay. And that's what we did this week. And I'm telling you, this one meant a lot to me. That's how good this was.
Yeah, no, it absolutely did. It changes the way you look at this team. I mean, you think about with the penalty perspective, it goes to in the Super Bowl year, you make all those comparisons, of course, when it's so fresh, but it's like the Carolina Panthers game. Now, the difference in that game is because all the penalties were one-sided. They were all against the Eagles. But they took care of business. They won that game. That was a hard-fought game. This, for the most part, was not. The Eagles took care of business. Really, I think the beginning of the game was closer than anything else the rest of the game. It's, that one, it really was that one drive for the Titans.
You're right. It got to 7-7 with that drive. It wasn't 10-7 or anything. Yep.
Right. Yeah, it was 7-7. And then they took care of business going forward from there. But yeah, I mean, again, all 3 facets of the ball. There was a lot of talk about special teams this week. That was humongous. And they stopped the run against a really good running back. It's going to be interesting. I think, you have Saquon twice and the Cowboys running back tandem. Yeah. Those two, those two you're going to have to look at a lot. But I mean, when it comes to the Saints and the Bears, not worry about that. But I think this was a good start. I really think they had a decent game against Jonathan Taylor. Like I said, I think I said that last week against the Colts. And they did even better this week against Henry. I still think Saquon will be able to do some things, but the Giants look like they're also coming back down to earth too. So
let me ask you, does my look remind you of a guy that lives in a van?
Yes, you did. I see it.
It's actually a pretty good one.
It is.
I like it, Cease. I appreciate that humor. You know what? I just felt like something different tonight. I'm all fired up because we're 35-10. We're rolling teams. Who has beat the Titans 35-10? Nobody. The Bengals squeezed one out against them. The Chiefs squeezed one out against them. They are a tough team, and we whooped them. And that's why I'm just all juiced up, and I felt like something else tonight. And, I mean, listen, we're in week 13. We're going into 14, and there's a lot on the line going forward here. As Dan mentioned before, the Vikings are still on our tail. We can't really feel anything cruise control, but in the end, doesn't that feel like that's the way it should be? Doesn't feel like we need to be pressed. And I think the pressing part is going to help us really get to that seed. And only one team gets a bye anymore in the NFL playoffs. One team per division. Conference, I should say. Number 1 seed. It's so important. I think this is going to press us. As long as these Vikings are competitive and the Cowboys are competitive, we're going to be pressed till week 17. I'm okay with that.
We definitely are going to be pressed. I'm starting to feel the pressure a little bit just because, look, that the Cowboys game comes on the heel of 3 road games in a row on Christmas Eve. Everybody's going to be watching. It's going to be a lot that they can do. I mean, if they go into Dallas,
is that Sunday night? Do you remember?
What?
Is that Sunday night? I feel like
no, that's a Saturday, like 4:25.
Oh yeah, they went Saturday. Yes,
yeah. Christmas is Sunday.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's going to be, everyone's going to be juiced. I mean, you're talking about your juice now.
I am.
Christmas Eve is going to be a riot.
Yeah.
So I mean,
if
they win that game anyway, I don't care if it's by 1. They win that game, it's going to be crazy. But the thing is, I'm starting to feel the pressure a little bit because they don't really have wiggle room. There's no they can afford to do this. They can start the rest of their guys. Like you said, they're taking it up to the end of the season. And, you got to see what the situation looks like going in. If they lose a game other than Dallas, before week 18, they might have to play that if they really want that number 1 seed. But the only thing that fears me about getting the number 1 seed, obviously the rest is great for the health of the players, but you also don't want to get too soft. But that would be the thing. If they have to play hard week 18, I'm all for it. I want to see that because then they'll stay in that, because like in the past we've seen teams who get the buys. They're like, they've wrapped it up by like week 15, week 16. So you don't play 17. You have
not in this new NFL.
No, I know.
Not in this one team by NFL. You haven't seen them wrap it up that easily, that early. Like you haven't.
Right. Because you're like 1 or 2, it's fine. Just, if number 1
in the years past, 1 or 2 was fine.
Right.
Yep.
It is different. I know it is different now. Yeah. But still, you always fear of that. You have a week off, you rust.
I agree, but you don't want 2 or 3 weeks off. You'll take that vibe. So them not shutting it down to week 18 is fine with me. C's talking about, we can score anytime with the run and pass. That's exactly right. With the Packers game, we proved the run. With the Titans game, we proved the pass. And I mean, Dan, I'm with you. I can't tell you how big of an outcome. And at this point, I hate Tom Brady. I hate the Buccaneers. They are sloppy and they're terrible.
Why?
And for me to pull out that game the other night, I was like biting on 2 edges of a sword. I'm like, this sucks watching this guy win a game, but okay, the Saints are 4-9 now. So it was a little weird, like bittersweet. But to the point, you're right. These Saints keep losing. They're sitting at 5 right now, top 5. Now, it's a little odd because a lot of teams haven't had a bye and they have a bye this week.
You're right. So I think you're going to bye this week.
I think we're probably going to end up about 8 or 9, which is fine. It's 100% fine.
Well,
but
yeah, of course it is. Yeah. I mean, you think about it, the move that they made, I still try and think of why did they make that trade with us? Like, what did they, like, I think they took like.
Did they get Olave with that pick? Or did they get Olave? No, they got Olave earlier.
Or no, was Olave? No, I thought Olave was like a top 12 pick or something.
No, you're right. They got Olave earlier. And
they got Manning. I think that Manning, the offensive tackle who's been out most of the year.
Yep. You're 100% right. Yep.
Yeah. So I like it. He hasn't really done anything, and now maybe it pays off in the future. But like, it didn't make sense as to why they did it. They essentially gave us a free, pick.
At the time, you thought they were jumping up for like ahead of us for a receiver or something, but I mean, we ended up moving that other pick for AJ Brown, and it was all good and gold and okay.
Yeah, I mean, it still baffles my mind, but here we sit with the best record in the NFL and top 5 pick as of this moment.
So let's talk about. I agree. Let's talk about the game coming up this weekend, the New York Football Giants. And I got to ask you this before we even get into this game. Back here in Philly, it's been always said it's the Dallas Cowboys, right? And I agree. I try and teach my kids it's Dallas Cowboys. We hate them the most. But I'm telling you, it ain't far off from the New York Football Giants. I mean, it's 1A and 1B. It's 51-49. And for me, I'm juiced up. It's Giants week. And it's the first week that, we get A.J. Brown facing the New York Giants.
Right.
And really, last year, probably the worst game that Jalen Hurts had, New York Football Giants. So I feel like there's a lot of newness that needs to be indoctrinated into this rivalry, but also some guys that are ready and understand what it means and need to be maybe avenge some things that they had. It's going to be a big week. Giants are limping in off a tie to the Commanders. They are holding on to their dear playoff lives while the Eagles are fighting more and more for that number 1 seed. I'm excited. I think it's a really big game. I'm just curious where you think this is going to go because the Giants like to play this type of let's go wrestle in the mud. I know I can't beat you, on a fast track, and I know I can't beat you in a place with a lot of space, but I can try and beat you in a muddy world. So where do you think this one, what are the keys to the game for you?
It's going to be, I really think it's going to, I think the Eagles are going to be fine on offense. I really do. It's the defense that I worry about because I feel like Daniel Jones has always been able to be decent against us.
He's been okay.
And he uses his legs a lot, and I think he changes the dynamics of the game. when he's on. If he's bad, Daniel Jones, obviously that's a different thing. But with the reemergence of Saquon Barkley, they now can fool you. They can do their version of RPOs and give the ball to Barkley, and it's not as much of a that. The thing is, the good thing that you saw with Derrick Henry is he's a downhill runner. He's going to run in the middle. He doesn't bounce it outside nearly as much.
No, he tries to break that first layer, right? Yeah.
Saquon's more shifty. He'll either take it up the middle or he'll bounce it outside. He'll do different things. He's more of an asset in the screen game compared to Derrick Henry. So there's more things that you can do with Saquon, but I don't think he's as much of a force as Derrick Henry. And then if the Eagles decide to focus on Saquon, because really their receivers, there's nobody receiving wise that can really kill you unless like Darius Slayton has, a go off game. Wan'Dale Robinson hasn't really been able to see the field too much. Yeah, that's why I'm like he came on, he was out for a while, came back on, and now he's hurt again. So he just can't stay on the field. So they really don't have threats that can beat us. It's really going to be Saquon and the legs of Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is not going to beat you with his arm, but if the Eagles sell out on the run, Daniel Jones is going to make some things happen with his feet, and then receivers will start moving around. Again, I think the Eagles can alleviate this. I saw a lot of good play from their defensive line, and I think even though I said it earlier, Jordan Davis didn't have a fantastic day. He really was trying to work his way back. I think it brought a whole new level to that defensive line because everybody was fresher. Everybody was playing great. Some people are talking about it, but an underrated play from the other day, Fletcher Cox making that rundown sack on Tannehill. When Tannehill, that's where you say, there's the Fletcher Cox of old. And I think the fact that he has less reps now is because he's only playing half the snaps. He's fresher, and he's giving you more in less time. Brandon Graham's giving you more in less time. Like all these guys are able to do that. It's great.
So I think Dan's like right aligned with you. Like, and I agree. I mean, we've had the Daniel Jones trip over the 20 game against us when he was out for like a 60, 70-yard run. He does get kind of like dangerous with the legs. But here's where I'm not with you. And it's not that I'm not with you. I shouldn't say it from that aspect. But I ain't worried about the Giants offense. They're going to put up 20 at the most. Like they just are not a volume scoring team. And they don't have the offensive weapons to really deal with us. If this game's going to get ugly, it's going to be because somehow they figure it out against us on defense. Now, the problem with the Giants is they're banged up in the defensive secondary. And I just think if they are able to pound with us, they got to sell out somewhere. And it's going to be, playing too deep and playing some over the top against A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, which should open up the game for Miles Sanders. And we've had that kind of flexibility. Cease has talked about it before. And what are you going to do against the Eagles? If a team stops the run, they beat with the pass. And that's 100% what we did in the last 2 weeks. And you've seen it. We're so adaptable, flexible against whatever the defense presents. We're more in problems with teams that, have a little bit good defense, from both perspectives, like Indianapolis did. But I don't think that's the case this week. I actually think we do beat them over the top. I think we do have another nice A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith type game. And I am thinking we do score enough points to make them try and play catch up, which is just not something they can do.
Of course. Like you said, you put it perfectly when you started talking about them. They want you to get in the mud and play with them, play down to their level. If they get you to do that, they're in the game, even with the Washington game. And the thing is, the Giants actually probably should have won that game. A lot of tackles by Washington, sloppy defense. So, I mean, I think the good thing about this Eagles team, they smell weakness. It's like a shark. They can smell the blood in the water, and they go for it.
Yes.
And they've shown, like you said, again, I'm kind of reiterating what you said, but with the Packers, they knew they could run all over them. With the Titans, they knew they could throw all over them. It's going to be the same type of thing. So as long as they don't get in the dirt with the Giants, I think things will be just fine for the Eagles on Sunday.
I agree. And if we want to project forward, it is Dallas. And it always has been Dallas. It just –
we can't look ahead.
Yeah, but you always got to take care of what's in front of you. So I agree that – I mean, let's just be honest. The Giants slam dunk's a great phrase. The Bears, as well. I think you'll have a little bit of stiction with the Bears from a standpoint that Fields will just give you kind of some confounding looks. But with Mooney out, I think they've just pretty much become one-dimensional. And over time, I think after 4 quarters, the Eagles will dominate that game. They just might have a couple sticking points in that game. But then it's Dallas. And you're right. And Dallas is going to be tricky. But if you can hold that 2-game lead with the 1 half-game lead in the division already, I think they're going to be okay. I still think they're going to be okay. You know, if the Eagles go 16-1, that's crazy. I still, there's going to be I hate to say it, but there's still going to be some type of trip up along the way. And the trip up will still be probably enough to get them 1 seed.
It should be. And hopefully, like, I really do. I agree with you in regards to that. There probably is a trip up, but it just seems.
I don't even know if I want 16-1. I don't think I do.
No, I mean 15-2 would be the perfect scenario because it shows it.
Yeah,
that would be perfect. But like you don't want to wish for a loss either. I think the thing about the Chicago game, I know we're looking ahead. The one thing the reason why I could see, and I agree why it may not be 100% convincing at the start. It's a December game in Chicago. That's never good news. Like
no,
it's just always,
you're not throwing in that weather either.
And you got Dallas, 6 days later on Christmas Eve. So that would be the reason why I think that's the case. But like I said, can't look ahead, got to look at the Giants. And I think we're seeing the Giants for what they are. And I think the true Giants are starting to come out.
They are. They really are. Let me just, before we get into our predictions, I'll take a quick hot take on this and let me know what you think. I think Brian Daboll is an idiot. And I know there's a lot of Giants fans right now sitting there raising the torch and saying that he's the next leader of this team that's going to push them over the edge. But from a perspective, I've seen this before. I have seen this before. A guy that's all fired up and gets the attention of the fans and panders me even more than Nick Sirianni. And then, he's a little bit more dynamic in his losses than he is in his wins, eating up, the offensive line and the quarterbacks. And I just think he's been pretty much a clown show. And I know guys out in New York won't say that, but I'm going to tell you from a far off perspective, he is. And this is, when you start losing, when you're 7-2, everything's fine. When you're 7-4-1, things have changed. And are you going to be liked as much as you were when you were earlier, when you were squeezing out those lucky games that you got? I'm not so sure. Brian Daboll, to me, is a guy I don't have a good warm and fuzzy about. This happened very similarly to the McAdoo stages. And he was great. He got into the playoffs the first year. And by year 2, he was an absolute mess, benching Eli Manning for Geno Smith and going back and forth and just messing things up. He got fired. And then they bring on, the old New England Patriots special teams coach. What was his name again?
Joe Judge.
Joe Judge, who looked like the savior because he came from the Belichick tree. Absolute
disaster. That never works.
That never works. And I'm just telling you, be careful on this Daboll guy because I'm not convinced. I am not convinced. And that's not because he's wearing blue and red. I'm just telling you, he looks a little bit too much for me right now. And I think the truth will come out. And I'm just curious what you think about him so far because right now, I think he's a clown.
Before you threw the words hot take out there, I was actually going to talk about Daboll's coaching style and what I thought about that. So this is the perfect segue into that. I got to disagree with you. I like Brian Daboll. I know it seems like a lot, but I think he has a good pedigree of where he's been. He's been in a lot of good places. He worked with Josh Allen. He was under a good system in Buffalo. And I think he probably came out the right time. I know there was talks about him last year. I mean, I think teams have been looking at him for the 2 years prior to this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I think he's kind of hamstrung with the talent that he has. Obviously, I mean, you've seen a bounce back season from Saquon. It's in part that he's healthy now, but I also think that he is getting the most out of this team for what they are. And I think he really had to dig down deep and pull to get it out of them. I think the fire is good. Now, again, I can see what you're saying. Maybe the fire runs out pretty quick. He could Ben McAdoo it, but I think that he has more of an NFL ready pedigree And I think he has the mindset that he's actually going to be able to make this work for a little bit. I think if they can get some more talent, I mean, to me, if there's a way that they can upgrade from Daniel Jones and they can bring in a receiver. I mean, they got hosed with Kenny Golladay just being an absolute shell of himself. And not being able to have Wan'Dale Robinson on the field. They have some talent there, and they're like in Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson, but I really think that he has gotten the most that he could get out of this group. They're going to improve, and I think in 2 years they're going to be a force to reckon with.
They lost to the Seahawks just 5 weeks ago. Squeaked out one against the Texans. Lost to the Lions, Cowboys, and tied the Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ever since he's going on this little New York kind of stroll and feels empowered to be like this badass, boisterous voice, it hasn't worked. Well,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'll just say, and I'll give it right back. For this to work for him, he's got to calm that shit down. And that's just my opinion. That doesn't work in the NFL with players that are making way, a lot of money that don't need to hear a fat guy yelling at them. That's just my opinion. You do it behind the scenes. Got it. I think Vrabel does it very well behind the scenes. But out there on the sidelines, that's theatrics, that's pandering, that's reacting to the media. That's exactly the opposite of what will make you successful in New York. And that's my opinion. Could be wrong, but that's where I'm at.
Again, you go more on the actions. I go more on what he has to work with. And I think that he's it is almost a little gimmicky because he's trying to motivate the guys that he has, because I think he knows that they're not talented enough and he's got to do more and he's got to bring more in with a full off season under his belt.
Yeah. So you do that on the sidelines or you do that in the back? I'm
just saying, I think I can see why you think it's a little bit of a clown show, but I really think that, not saying that I want this to happen. I'm just saying, I think that he's going to get more talent. They're going to be a better team, and then it's going to be more figured out. I'm not saying it's going to be this year. I'm just saying going forward.
No. So I will make this a pretty much certainty for me. He's looking for a job in 2024. But and I say that from a sense of maybe they give him 3 years, so after the 2024 season. But dude, get your resume ready because you ain't winning shit with Daniel Jones. And let's get into this week and this game with the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants. And I'll start it off. I got one guy in the comments already putting his pick out there, and it's kind of a bomber, and I don't disagree with this. The margin, I think, should be there. The Eagles favored, I think, by 7 going into this game. It's fluctuating around that, but I think it's settling around 7 right now. I will take the Eagles. I just think they're too good of an offense to really be shut down by this muddied defense that we talked about earlier in the game that the Giants want to play. We won't get suckered into that. There will be times that Sirianni probably wants to, recall a play here or there. But in the end, this is Jalen Hurts, and this is his rebound game against a team where he just kind of, made some questionable decisions. Obviously, the pick at halftime a year ago in the Meadowlands was one that, he wanted back. And then the second half, even more. He's there. He can watch the film. He knows. He's on the way projecting to an MVP season. He'll rebound. And he's going to rebound well through there and on the ground. I like the Eagles in this game, 31-16. I just don't see the Giants being able to keep up with the scoring pace the Eagles have.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to come down, like I said, I think it's more on the defensive side of the ball, how they contain the Giants. I think is going to be, and also Daniel Jones, like that whole it's really Saquon and Daniel Jones that they just have to hone in on. I'm not worried about their other offensive weapons. I think the Eagles offense will be just fine this game. I don't think it'll be as explosive as the Tennessee game, but I think they'll still be able to handle theirs. I like the Eagles here to win by a touchdown. I'm going to say 27-20. Eagles take care of business in the Meadowlands.
All right. And C's checking in with 33-17. Good week for the Eagles moving into Chicago. Mark, with that said, we're 40 minutes into the show. Maybe 35, but we had a great talk so far. Let's go on to our 3 packs where last week I hinted to it earlier. 3-0 coming out of both sides of it. I had Dallas. I had the Las Vegas Raiders against the Chargers. And then my other game there was the New York Giants. And with the tie, they were getting 2.5 at home. Gets the sweep. You had?
I had the Jags, the Lions beating the Jags.
Yep.
The Rams not losing by more than 7.5 against the Seahawks, and the Bills winning
Yes.
by more
Thursday
than
night.
4 at
Loved it.
New England Thursday night. It just seemed like it made too much sense. Actually, looking back on it, obviously revisionist history, I'm like, I really like my picks, but at the time I was like, yeah, we'll see.
No, I was texting a few people, and one might be in the chat that I didn't love the slate last week. And I ended up, I think, on my card 11-5, 10-6, something in that area on this one pool I do. But I just didn't love. But in revisionist history, like you said, it was a week to pound it. And that's okay. We'll get back. Last week of buys in the NFL this week into week 14, we got, I think, 4 teams that finished their buys, Green Bay being one. So let's get into the games this week. I'll let you lead off because 3-0 is pretty either way, but I'll let you go first.
Sure thing. So I'm going back to the Jags. Jags are at the Titans. Even though I picked the Jags to lose last week, I'm doing the same thing again. The Titans are 3.5-point home favorites. I think they need this bounce back game. They just fired John Robinson, their GM. Obviously, it comes right after A.J. Brown scores 2 touchdowns and has 119 yards receiving against them. You see the video of the fans, giving it to him. But obviously it's coincidental. I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. But from what it seems like, from what I've heard, is that he did things without the owner's approval. And I think enough was enough. I think the AJ dealing, was without owner's approval. I think that it was just a long time coming. Obviously, there must have been something else behind the scenes, nothing too crazy, but
winning record every year.
What?
Like, he's crazy. Winning record every year. He was
right.
Yeah.
Last 5 years, I think they've had winning records. He's like 66-37, I think, as being the GM. But I think it had to do with his control and what he did. Anyway, getting away from the point, the Jags, a lot of talent there, but just not able to put it together. The Lions took care of business. I know they're going to be chippy, and this is a divisional game. Obviously, I wish this number were 2.5 or 3 for the Titans, but I think the Titans, being first in the division, they can't let go of things. I really think they have to take it pedal to the metal. I think the Jags are going to be the recipients of a beating because the Titans are probably pissed off about the way that things went on Sunday in Philly.
I like it. I just don't have a lot of faith in the Jaguars right now. Here and there they pop one for you, but they're not consistent. Even the game that they got the 2-point conversion to win it.
Baltimore lost that game.
They should have lost. They should have lost, and they should have not covered. So I like it. I think Tennessee's just that much of a better team. And right now, coming off a 2-game losing streak to Cincinnati, good team in the AFC, and the Eagles, best team in the NFC. They're kind of getting undervalued. So I like that pick. Good call. I'm going to move to a game that listen, people can call it disrespect. People can call it what they want. But I alluded to it earlier. I like the Detroit Lions this week. -1.5. You'll see it maybe up to 2 in some spots right now, and I'm okay with that. Anything under 3, I'll probably still play. I prefer it 2 or under just because Detroit plays on some odd number games just because of the way they score points. But, 4 out of the last 5 could have won that game on Thanksgiving with Buffalo. I actually think, I won't call them the better team, but the equal team in that game.
Yep.
Campbell's got them playing well. And the games I get worried about with Dan Campbell are the games when he's outmatched. And when he's outmatched, he wants to try an onside kick. He wants to try, a 4th down conversion from the wrong side of the field. And he gets just this little bit too ambitious for me. So he doesn't have to get ambitious against the Minnesota Vikings. It's crazy that a 10-2 team is a dog against a 5-7 team, but not to me. I think these teams are more equal than we think. I like the Detroit Lions to win this game and cover the number and send Kirk Cousins another 2 games behind us and gives us a little breathing room in the standings. Give me the Lions this week. I think they're doing something right. I think they're continuing to trend in the right direction. We saw it the first week against the Eagles, and we're like, damn, that team's not that bad. Then they
Yeah.
had their ups and downs. Now they're on their ups. Let's take them.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I had that game marked down in my games, but I decided to pull it out because I was going to go Vikings. I saw +2.5 as of earlier tonight.
You might, yeah.
And I was thinking about it, but the more and more I think about it, the tight divisional game, the Lions, they have pride to play for. They've played teams hard. I think the Vikings have had some good wins. They've had some, bad losses. And I think that in this scenario, they are, and that game with the Jets was very close. And I think the Jets offense with Mike White as their quarterback, I think the Lions offense is better. They played the Vikings tough. So I think the Lions aren't going to come out weak at all. They're not going to. I really don't see that being the case at all. So now that the more and more I think about it, I'm on board with you as we go through it.
Nice. Where do you got number 2?
Number 2, big line. You know how you and I feel about big lines this year. It's not foolproof, but 16.5 for the Cowboys at home against the Texans. I'm telling you, it's the nation. It's the way that they beat the Colts. Remember, was it the beginning of the fourth with 13:52 left in the fourth quarter?
21-19.
21-19.
Yep.
And then the Colts absolutely imploded. The Texans are not that good of a team, but they play hard. This is a Texas game. I'm sorry, but almost 17 points for the Cowboys is just a lot. I could see them winning by 10. I could see them winning by 13, but 16.5 is a huge number. I'm telling you, no way.
I like it. I'm with you. Fading the Biggers all year, and I can't with the Dallas Cowboys right now.
No.
Look, they can,
and they're good. Don't get me
be
wrong.
teams,
we know we got our work cut out for us. They're good, and they can do things with their running game and stuff like that. But we even had a tough time against the Texans. It wasn't an easy game. I think they play teams hard.
And Davis Mills is back, and he's more of a professional quarterback than Allen is. So I like it. Let me go rapid fire and Dan Green's picks. Tell me if I'm wrong. I don't love the Raiders, and I've been on the Raiders bandwagon for 3 straight weeks. I don't think they're a great team in a favorite position. They scare me when they're a favorite, and they scare me more when they're a favorite near a touchdown. So don't get me wrong, the Rams stink. I just don't know. So Casey,
Thursday night is a weird night. And
weird. I don't want that game.
Yeah.
What do you think? Weird, right? I just don't want to bet it.
The whole thing is weird.
Yep. Not my pack. KC, I would lean KC. I'm with you there. I think they got everything to play for, now tied at 9-3 with Buffalo Bills up top. So I'm okay with that. Seattle, don't love. Why is that 4? Like, why? Like, Carolina is horrendous. Why is Seattle only a 4-point? That's pretty much telling me they're even on a neutral field. I don't know. I get a little worried about that game. I'm not telling you I would ever bet Carolina. I'm just telling you it smells weird.
Be hesitant about Seattle. I agree. I think, like we said, we've noted and we've alluded to this. They're coming back down to earth a little bit.
Yeah.
And they've also had running back injury problems too. They don't have Kenneth Walker. They're really probably relying on Travis Homer. It changes the way.
Yeah. Miami, I like. I think so little of the Chargers and that Brandon Staley as coach. So I'm with you on 2 of them. The other 2, I'm not against you. I'm just telling you they wouldn't be games I bet. That right now, I just don't feel them well. I'll give you my number 2 of my 3-pack, and it's off the radar a little bit from a perspective that a lot of people probably are going to play the other side. But I'm going to go Cleveland Browns +6. I know Deshaun Watson didn't look great last week against Houston, but did you expect him to? Right? Going into that environment that he was there before. And then not playing for 2 years. Like, if you really thought they were going to light them up, I mean,
Yeah.
I got a land for sale over in Paulsboro that I could give you for a good amount of money. That is, probably on some type of, Simpsons type level. But what I'm saying is, from that, Cincinnati's coming off a win against the Kansas City Chiefs. They're coming off a win against the Tennessee Titans. They're rolling. It's hard rebounding. Indianapolis came off a win against the Kansas City Chiefs earlier in the year, lost the direct next week to division rival in the Tennessee Titans. Very similar script here. Since he wins, now they get a division rival that they're favored against. I like Cleveland. They already beat down Cincy once. They have kind of a good game script against them where they're able to be physically empowering. Chubb had a huge game, over 100, scored 28 fantasy points in that game. I think they can do enough to be within the number here, and I'll take the Cleveland Browns plus the 6 against Cincinnati.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, it's division games at the end of the year. They're always tough. They're never easy. Never easy. I'm going to go. Now, this one is more of a big line, and I'm actually going to be on the side of the big line. But I think this is a revenge game, and this is why I think
Love
this.
it.
Jets at Bills, minus 9.5.
I'm with you.
Got to go Bills here. Bills are home. Jets are a totally different team from what they were. They still had Breece Hall at the time. They don't have him anymore. The Mike White thing, it's fun little story. Garrett Wilson's, with him, they're losing out on Zach Wilson, but the running game is not there at all. I mean, they might get Michael Carter back, but that's nothing what Breece Hall, was for them. The Bills, they've messed around with some of these teams that are not on their level. And I think this is a game where they show you they're the Buffalo Bills and they're going to take care of business.
I really, really like that game. Good call. I was leaning towards that as one of my plays as well. But, instead of just, tailing that, I'll give another game just so we give 6 different games. But I like that pick, and I think you're onto something there. Listen, Buffalo's coming off a larger rest too, right? They play tonight. The Jets are coming off a very emotional game. 2 in a row, really, if you look at it with Mike White at quarterback. That was a tough loss for them. I just think there's a little bit going on there that I think the steam might run out, and I think the Bills, like you said, they just really – they're a team that we're going to have to track going forward here because I think they're going to really start imposing their will. I think this is where I'm going to land on my last one. I have a few that I was coin flipping, but I'm going to go to the Monday night football game, and I'm going to go to the New England Patriots, Arizona Cardinals. And what I do know is New England Patriots 6-6, Arizona Cardinals 4-8. You got a quarterback coming out and telling the world that the game, the play calling is horrendous and it's shitty. I mean, and not even being coy about it. This guy's an absolute disaster. He's like, he's so bad. He's so bad for a team. He's so bad for his players. They got to be cursing themselves now. And I'm talking Kyler Murray about what they did by giving him this extension. He is poisonous. He's caustic. He's terrible for his team. I'm not a Cliff Kingsbury fan. I said it before. He stinks, but you don't go out and saying it, and you don't go out pointing the fingers when you're as much of the blame as anybody else.
Yep.
This team's a mess. That a bye week won't help this shit squad. I think the Patriots find a way to get a little extra rest too. They were last Thursday night, moving to Monday night. My big thing about the Patriots this year, and I'll say this, they've lost games to Josh Allen, Kirk Cousins, Lamar Jackson, Tua Tagovailoa, Aaron Rodgers, and they lost another game to Justin Fields. We'll call him marginal. The games they've won have been against just terrible quarterbacks. 2 against Zach Wilson, 1 against that kid out in Indianapolis. What was his name? Not
Erlinger? No.
Erlinger, yeah. Yep, the ex-Texas quarterback. They beat a bad Mitch Trubisky, right? So they've won their games against horrendous quarterbacks. They've lost games against good quarterbacks. Well, guess what? I don't put Kyler Murray in that good quarterback bucket because he's a freaking cancer to his team. I think New England Patriots, a team more well-rounded, more put together, more committed to the cause. Give me the Patriots on Monday night minus 2.5.
I like it. I mean, it's Bill Belichick versus Cliff Kingsbury, and I take Belichick 10 out of 10 times.
Yep. And Dan, yeah, I think Mark's on to something with a couple of these picks, and I'm with you. I support both those calls with Tennessee and the Bills. Man, the Jags really stink. They stink deep down inside. I think Tennessee's back.
And there's something with Tennessee too that, they say it. I think they're 1-4 against good teams, now 1-5. So, they have their good wins, but their wins are against the bad teams. And Jacksonville is a bad team in this scenario. So they should take care of business here.
I love it. I love it. We got 2 more things coming up. Let's go hot stove. Looking at Philadelphia Phillies. We did it. We talked about it earlier. You're sporting it tonight. Man,
a lot.
I know. Like, I'm not saying I had an 8-ball and I'm Nostradamus, and I'm not saying you are either. But we talked about it last week. We talked about it the week before. Who were the Phillies going to land a free agency? Trey Turner was my, definite sword in the stone, and no doubt about it, thought that was coming, and it did, and that feels great. Like I said, that doesn't take anybody. I could have asked Joe in South Philly, and he would have said the same thing.
Right.
Not tooting that horn, but what I'm telling you is, let alone the 10 for 300, let alone everything else that came with it. He turned down San Diego for a bigger deal.
Yeah.
He walked away from Los Angeles, who would give you anything you wanted to stay, to come here to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And if you can't take those I's, dot them, and cross the T's, and understand that we're getting the premier, outside of Aaron Judge, free agent in the market to come to Philadelphia to play for this town, because what he saw in the offseason, and what he saw in the postseason, what he saw from Bryce Harper, and what he's heard from everybody around this organization, and how positive it is, that goes a long way more than 10 for 300.
I mean, it goes to the fact that when they signed Bryce Harper, they had to commit to the cause, and they have. And it seemed like it took a little longer than it would, but once they brought in JT, they brought in Schwarber, and they brought in Castellanos. Harper's essentially a consultant, and he's putting this team together, and they've put all their faith in him. And at first you would think, is it fair to do that? But he goes and has an MVP season on a year where he puts the entire team on his back. And then he has this, they have this season, and, he's injured half the time, but he's still playing through it, like able to bat and does what he does against the Padres to put us into the World Series. Like, storied. And it's like the playoffs are still going almost. Like, yes, the World Series stunk for us, but like, they're committed to the cause. And Dombrowski was the perfect guy to bring in here, because he is going to do whatever it takes to win. He's going to spend the money. He's going to get, because what he does is he puts a plan together. He says, Middleton, I need this money because this is what we're going to put together. And you see it. And obviously you and I were both privy to the Turner talks. I think if things didn't work out with Turner, I think Bogaerts, who is still available, he would have been here. I think Bogaerts probably would have been signed like today.
Or Correa. You think it was Bogaerts before Correa?
I really do. I think it goes to the connection that Dombrowski has. He does.
I can agree.
I wouldn't be upset either way. I know Correa is younger, but
if you get Bogaerts for less, right? Less years.
Yeah.
Then I would have been with that. Right, you can go younger.
I really think Bogaerts was the next guy. I really do. He was the succession plan. So obviously that's all well and good, but kind of surprised with the Taijuan Walker signing.
Yeah, let's get to that. But just my point on the Trey Turner was,
go ahead.
It wasn't as much about the signing and the player, because we all knew it was a perfect fit. To me, it was more about him committing to the Phillies. That just was my point. I just wanted to get your perspective of, I wasn't surprised, but I was more ecstatic about the news I've heard coming out afterwards and everywhere else, that he could have got more elsewhere, but he wanted Philadelphia. Does that just mean a lot more to you?
It really does. I mean, he could have been in two of the nicest places in the country. I mean, San Diego is the perfect weather place to be.
Yep.
And they have a monster team already over there. I mean, he would have fit in perfectly. I just would have wanted to figure out what they do with their shortstop, whether they move him to second or not. But
That's what I was hearing. Yeah.
because that's the only thing. Their
House on
shortstop,
King, something like
yes,
that. Yep.
he's an amazing fielder.
Yep.
The bat's decent, but it's nothing of Turner's. And
No.
they've had issues at second base. So it's like, were they asking Turner to play second? I wonder if that had something to do with it. And then, Dodger, it's LA, but baseball is not as big out there as it is here. And I think it was a multitude of things. His wife is from Jersey.
Yep.
He grew up in Florida. So obviously spring training, he wants to be near his home. So those are already two things right there. Bryce Harper and him are attached at the hip. I really think that whole Realmuto, Schwarber, Turner, Harper, they're like a class of players, and they're all in that same right. Like they're kind of like all the bros,
Yep.
It seems like Harper is like you think of it as like a spider web or a family tree, and it all starts with him, and all those guys derive from it. And obviously they play together in Washington. So you got that, and you got what they just did. I mean, I think there was already rumors at the beginning of the season. Harper comes out early in the season and says like Turner's my favorite, or I think the best player in the league, or he's my favorite player, like whatever. So trust me, Harper was already in Dombrowski's ear and Middleton's ear, like you guys are going to get this done when he becomes a free agent. Like he was already doing that, but
it still has to happen.
But it has to happen, and then you can't deny the playoff run that they just went on. Like you can't deny it. If you really are a lifer, and he played in Washington, so he knows what the Phillies are about. He's seen it firsthand. And Harper only is there to reinvigorate it and, make the noise louder. And you see how magical this October was.
Yep.
You want to be there. You want to be a part of it.
That's my point, right? And the point is, Trey Turner came here for a lot of reasons. And one of them, no matter what you want to say about it, it's to be here, part of this Philadelphia magic. The other part is Harper and his boys. And the third part was, his family, like you said. So It was just good to see that, this guy wants to grind it out. He wants to win. He's going to be a Philly favorite from the start. He's a perfect fit. Can't wait to see him play. But you alluded to something earlier, and I'm with you on the Taijuan Walker signing. 4 years, $72 million, an average of $18 million annually. We knew we were in the market for a starting pitcher. I thought it was going to somehow kind of revolve around someone like Carlos Rodon. I know we spent a lot for Turner, but I just thought there was going to be a way to get his ex-Wolfpack teammate from NC State here along with him.
Right.
But it turns out to be Taijuan Walker. And at first, I bat an eye and I'm like, that's too much. Yeah. That's why I opened the show with, do you care about the money? So when I say too much, it has nothing to do with the money.
Right.
My too much was 4 years. Yeah. And it's not that I think this is his year 30 turning season, something around there.
He'll be 30. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's this year he turns 30. So we run him through 33, right? And maybe that's what it took to get done. But when you're looking at some other contracts like Tyler Anderson getting 3 for 35 and Eflin 3 for 40, don't get me wrong, I thought that was way too much. I didn't want him 3 for 40. I'd rather take Walker. Was there other options? I was hoping.
It's really all. It's the one thing that I kept alluding to was the trade market. And I don't think that the trade market's huge this year. I think there were guys that were available for it. But, yeah, I didn't really, besides Rodon, I don't see what else there. I mean, everybody, it's like there's not, once the DeGrom was out and we knew that wasn't a real thing, there weren't really like that, number.
I don't want Verlander, right?
Right. Verlander. He's getting $43 million a year.
Crazy at 40.
I know he just won the Cy Young. But
I don't trust it. Yeah, he also just won Cy Young, but he was out the whole year before that. Like, go ahead, Matt. Good on you, but like I would have loved DeGrom, but I knew I'm not paying 5 for 185. We weren't getting. I'm not mad at Walker. Don't take me the wrong way. What it did tell me was, hey, I don't trust Syndergaard.
Right.
Now Gibson ended up in Baltimore, and we weren't going to resign him, no problem. But it tells me I'm going to put Walker Syndergaard battling for the 4, and Andrew Painter's going to be in the rotation. Now, Andrew Painter is going to end up being on a pitch count, is what it also tells me. So whether they bring Painter up and start pitching in April, or whether they kind of ease him into it and go 4 or 5 innings like a Tampa Bay Rays way, and stretch him out like Spencer Strider did in a way.
Yep.
I don't know, but Painter's in the mix, and that's what tells me more than anything with this Walker signing.
Right. It was not because if you get Rodon, he's your 3. You could even battle for 2. Then you got Suarez, and then you got your bottom feeders.
Then you got your Syndergaard or Painter, but
right.
I think this Walker is like almost like you're paying someone 16 to 18. Like you're more in a better shape to tell them, I got someone better than you. Rodon, if you're going to go out and pay 30, I mean, he's your guy no matter what he's doing. Manaea showed that in San Diego last year and struggled. So Patrick Corbin's a great example of it too, right?
Yes.
7 ERA and you couldn't pull him out for $30 million.
Right.
I think it just tells you like, okay, I'm willing to pay 16, 18 and let you know that if I need to, I'll pull the plug.
Yeah.
That's how I read it.
Yeah, I think I would agree.
Now, are they done?
I think they have another move.
I do too, but if they have another move, is it a bench bat, a starting pitcher, or a relief pitcher?
I would almost think a relief pitcher.
That's where I am. Now, the good move
today. They did sign.
And that kid was in Kansas City, right? And then got moved to
well, he was just in Boston.
Yeah, I think he got traded at the trade deadline. I think he originated in Kansas City.
Yeah. And he's a guy who just, I think last year was his first full season in the bullpen.
I think it was. He had some up and downs, but lefty. So that's nice because really in the bullpen, if you watch it,
it's just him and Alvarado pretty much.
It was Alvarado, and we still can go back on Game 6, and I can't believe Suarez wasn't in. But
yeah,
let me take that back. I can't believe we don't even let our best pitcher go against
right.
Oh God, what Alvarez? But yeah, so this is good move. It gives you way more flexibility in the bullpen. Yeah. So when you say more bullpen move, do you look at because I still think they got good pieces, but do you look at a closer or are you going Sir Anthony?
I feel like really if you can get your hands on a closer. Now, I don't know the market, to be honest. I'm not too familiar with what is left in the closer market. Sir Anthony would be the perfect 8th inning guy. Yep. I think he's your perfect setup man. I really do. He's a good closer, but I think his stuff is better for the 8th inning.
But I also don't
long work in 7th and 8th inning.
I don't mind using him in the pinch and close. I don't. Here's where I didn't know if you were going to get there. And I apologize if I cut you off, but where I don't want to go is I don't want to spend closer money. I just watched Kenley Jansen get $32 million for 2 years in Boston. Yeah. I can figure out closers.
Yeah, I know. I mean, they made it work. They did make it work this year obviously at the end they used Eflin a little bit, but like
what about Robertson?
With a couple guys. Is he back?
I think he's back. I thought we got him 2 years. I thought we got him a year and a half. I thought that's why we
maybe you might be right. But we know Robertson's he's hit or miss too. He doesn't I like him, but he was good a long time ago. I mean, his stint that he did coming back before he was here was better than anything he did for us prior. And that was only really a couple games, a couple saves worth. I mean, they had to pull him out in Game 5 of San Diego. So it's like, I think if you want to work Robertson, Sir Anthony.
I'll tell you what, he's a UFA now. So, it doesn't matter. We don't have him.
I was going to say that would be weird that the Cubs would trade him with a year left on his.
It would have been, but except for the fact that, you take anything you can get for a 37-year-old. But, they're showing but he was only making 3.5 last year. If you really believe in him, you could get him for 3.5 again.
Yeah.
Yeah. But So I think you could see a few other pieces fall with you, but right now, good reliever, good starter, great shortstop. We're in good shape this year. The Phillies are the winner of the winter meetings right now.
Yep.
And I'm so pumped. I don't care what anybody says. Scare money doesn't make money. And I think right now the Phillies are proving that, they're not content with just coming up in second place.
They're not.
I love that. I love Middleton doing this, and I love Dombrowski making the moves he is. Let's move on to the Philadelphia 76ers. And we just want to wrap this up in the next couple minutes. Mark, I think the Sixers are getting away with murder right now. At 12-12, it's an absolute embarrassment for this organization in this town. But the fact is, the Phillies saved you getting to the World Series, and the Eagles being 11-1
right now.
Are just they're putting a lens over. They're putting a cap over your lens right now. Let's put it that way. And Doc Rivers sucks. He's horrendous. And watching James Harden go out there and suffocate the ball in his first game of the year against the Houston Rockets was embarrassing. It's bad basketball over bad basketball over bad basketball. The only time this team looks even entertaining is when I don't have 21 and Harden, hogging up the lanes and everything else. Like, imagine if you were Tobias Harris and made your career high in threes in a game only because you were getting offensive rebounds and jacking them up. But at the end of the game, for the last 15 minutes, you just got to sit in the corner and never see the ball. Like, it's a sad, disgusting way to play basketball. But that's what Doc Rivers is content with. He's content with just rolling these dinosaurs out there, like PJ Tucker, who hasn't scored more than 3 points in pretty much a game all year. I'm trying to be positive, but I can tell you right now,
you can't.
You can't.
Not with Doc.
No,
not with Doc.
And all he does is care about these veterans, and even when he doesn't, like I rip this lineup when he sees other. I can't believe Matisse Thybulle and PJ Tucker will see the floor together ever. At the same, neither of them can score.
Talk about offensive liability. I mean, you're asking.
It's bad, man. It's bad. And to go 0-3 on a road trip when you face the Houston Rockets. The Cavs are okay. I get it.
But he said his famous words after that game, right?
No.
Scheduled loss. You didn't. Oh, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that's not where you're going. He used the words. This is the second time in his tenure as a Sixer that he said it was a scheduled loss. And that's the thing is, you had Embiid out there. It's not even like Embiid wasn't out there.
No.
You had Embiid out there, and you had the balls to say that it was a scheduled loss.
I just can't.
All you need to know, for the fact that a coach has twice in his tenure that's not a tanking team threw out the word scheduled loss, that's it. You'd think he would have learned from the first time. Everybody still refers back to when he said it. It was, what was it against?
I remember it was
or something like that.
I want to say it was the game they played like Denver with nobody there, and Maxey put up like 43.
Right.
But he's like, it's a schedule. I hate this guy. I hate him, and he's so bad for the Sixers, and he's so bad for the organization. And you're only going to get right if you get him out of there. Like, I'm watching teams, and listen, I don't agree with what Trae Young's doing in Atlanta and kind of muddying up with his coach, but because I think Luke Mellon's a winner. But Doc Rivers, like, he's too old.
Somebody needs to stand up and say, yeah, this isn't right.
You have a guy that's been second MVP in years past. Harden's won MVPs. You got a Tobias. You got, they well-rounded this roster. Melton, I like as a player. House, he'll try, but you have a team you can win with, and he can't.
Nope.
Not only can he not win, he can't even be competitive like versus Cleveland.
No.
It's bad, man. Like
that's where it comes to coaching. That's where it comes to coaching, and you see their flaws because it's just dreck of gameplay.
It's Drake, and now it's tough. 7-game homestand. I don't know when they're going to be able to figure this out, but we were pretty close to it when we talked about Joe Girardi this year. In fact, I'll give you a lot more credit than myself. I said Girardi had 2-3 weeks to get it right, and within like 2-3 days he was out. You were more on the within a week.
I said, I do remember that.
Yep. Give me the Doc radar. like we had the Girardi radar. What do you think it's going to take with 7 straight home games around the holidays here? What keeps his job? Because after 7 games, I tell you, 2-5, he's done.
The fact that Tyrese Maxey is still 2 weeks away, I think, is his life jacket.
A ways away. How do you know it's 2 weeks? He said today a ways. But yeah, I hear.
Who said that?
Doc, they're like, what does that mean? It's like
Woj said
2 days,
Woj,
but I don't know.
Woj said he's right at that 2 week point.
Yeah.
And that he should be fine. And the thing is, Maxey was able to run today, but he wasn't able to jump. Yeah. So that's obviously that's the difference. I think they're, in my heart of hearts, I think if the brass is thinking about doing it, they should just do it sooner than later. But my read is different than the Phillies because I think they were desperate. I think the way that this has panned out, they're not desperate yet. Because, like, here's the thing with basketball. You can stink until, like, mid-January and still make the playoffs, be a decent seed, and move forward that way. I think if something happens, it's going to be, like, second week of January, if something. And I think that's too long, but I think that's where this organization is at. I think they want to see Maxey get back by Christmas, see what happens with the team, let James Harden get established. I don't think it's a week away like the last time.
Okay. I'm not far off with you there. I don't think it happens right around the holidays, but 7 games at home, 2-5, pretty much you're walking the plank. 3-4, 4-3. I think you might give yourself somewhat into January. Because, at this point, they're still like, 10 teams make the playoffs. They're going to find a way in.
Right.
So they might give a little leeway, but let's just look at it real fast. Lakers going to be tough. LeBron didn't play tonight. AD was out too. Don't know what we'll see when we come in here to Philly on Friday. Hornets should win that game. Kings better than they've been.
Kings are decent.
Still should win that game. Warriors lost. I always say that, and the Warriors aren't great, but we can't keep up with that. Raptors, Pistons should win. Clippers. So even if you play the worst of the worst, you should go 4-3. You really should. That's why I'll stick here and say that if he doesn't get it done and get this thing right, and somehow it falls to 2-5, he's out on Christmas on the Knicks game.
I mean, I don't want them to do that bad, but I can't stand watching him anymore as a coach.
He's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't mean to end on a sour note.
But guess what? Yeah.
But you gave me a little bit of I'll say a session on the couch because I feel a little better talking to you and feeling that the Doc Rivers is not just my problem. It's a lot of people's problem here. But we're riding the high of what I'm wearing. We're riding the high of what you're wearing. And we have a good Phillies, Eagles kind of, mix going on in the town right now. We ripped it up for the past hour 10 here on Heat Ratio Sports Network. I'm Dave Gleckner. That's Mark Tomasini. We're here every Wednesday. We're not stopping during the holiday season. We got 2 wins coming this weekend, predicting the Eagles to beat the Giants. One a little closer than the other, but either way, we should come out of there with about a touchdown victory and roll into next week when we talk about the Chicago Bears. The Bears. But until then, hit us up on Twitter. We're always being active. I'm at DGleck. That's at Philly Sports Source. Hey, we're trying to roll into this new year 2023 with all good things. Mark, you got anything else?
No, a lot of stuff to look forward to on the horizon with the holiday season and, the Eagles playing well. And be on the lookout. I still think there's another move. Maybe it's not a bullpen closer like I was thinking, but there's another Phillies move on the horizon. They can't be done. I think they have to go all in. I think they're pushing their chips on the table right now.
I'm with you. You don't make a Trey Turner signing and then go get Taijuan Walker and go bullpen arm and just sit there and say, I'm done. You're not. And that's why we love Philadelphia. And right now we're loving the pace of the Phillies and the pace of the Eagles. Sixer Flyers, you better catch up. But talking about catching up, we'll be back next Wednesday here on Heat Ratio Sports Network. Philly 4-for-4 So much more. We're 4th and Go on a winning Wednesday, episode 42 coming up next week. Till then, be real.